Hello, everybody. We are here.
It is us.
Welcome.
We have arrived.
Welcome. Thank you for hanging out, joining, stopping by, whatever you may doing in this wonderful Tuesday or whatever. Uh, it's knowledge time. It's time for us to put on the smart brains and learn about building fun but fair, I guess, classes.
Balanced?
Yeah, balance. That's the word we're thinking. I mean, I thought it was easy. Apparently, it's not. But thankfully, we went and got an expert on our hands.
That's me.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So,
I mean, I I am hesitant to say expert just because I'm like hilarious and cool and brilliant. You know, it doesn't.
yeah,
I'm fucking around. I'm not that full of myself.
yeah. He only
I've
made
written
100
lot of
subclasses, 100 spells. Just 100.
Well,
Not that big, right?
I technically made more. I cut them down to 100 for the books. But yes, I'm Alakazam. That's me. I'm a pro DM purveyor of all things homebrew. I've written a lot of homebrew, a lot of it, like a lot. I think I've, I think the last time I counted, I was like something like a little over 1,200 pages of homebrew, but that was like 10 months ago. I counted. I'm probably way over that now, like maybe close to 2,000,
At 2000. Okay.
something like that.
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah. Really? That much now?
Well, last month, I did NaNoWriMo and I did it exclusively homebrew with it. I did like 84,000 words. That ended up being like close to 100 pages by itself. More than that. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I had hit 2,000 pages. It's all across like a ton of different documents, so I'm not going to count them all because that's work, and I don't want to do that.
All because I would not allow an NPC to make me.
Yeah.
I've heard this story actually.
For those of you who don't know me, yes, I'm a pro DM and I write bananas amount of homebrew, and I also run an insane number of games. But my wife, Ina Coffin, the lovely Ina Coffin, all of it started because there was an NPC that was sad, and she was like, "I'm sad that he's sad." She's like, "Can I use magic to fix him?" And I was like, "Well, what you?" She's like, "Because you wanted to talk to a ghost of his, like former commanding officer." And I was like, "Well, that spell doesn't exist. There's speak with dead, but there's not really speak with ghosts." And she's like, "Couldn't you just make one that does that?" And I'm like, "All right, I'll make one spell." And then now, look at us. So,
One spell.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it gets out of hand pretty fast.
Well, that's how we ended up here. This all started from a simple joke in a campaign. I actually, small story time before we get started. Alec, I found you as a DM looking for a group because all of my friends that we were like doing D&D for a year just suddenly, yeah, we're done. We don't want to play anymore. And it was right when I got my girlfriend into D&D, so I was just like, okay, let's find something consistent that can be fun. And a little known module called what was that called again? Oh yeah, that's right. Witchlight came out, and me and her happened to like the Feywild a lot, and you ran our first game.
Yeah.
So I played a character named Lupo Cottontail. He's a Herringon, and long story short, in your games now, I've played 3 of these Cottontails. They're lost in the multiverse, and
Yeah. Let's see, there's Lupo, Drogo, and Trigger, but I know there's a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
because there's one for every class,
Um,
if
there's a
I'm not
total of
mistaken.
13 of them. So,
Yeah.
and I think canonically right now, 7 of them are alive and the rest might be dead. Sacrificed to an unknown entity that may or may not come into real life creation due to a joke that I say way too much that probably gets on your nerves now. But God damn it, the Alzabear will be real. He's a real thing. I believe in him.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I have some plans that I haven't even shared with you yet that might include a stunningly powerful owlbear.
Oh my God. Been here has probably seen my post and heard me rambling about cooking chat, but yeah, I cook. So I said, yeah, it'd be fun if there was a class that was actually a cook that wasn't like, you know,
Yeah,
lame.
not
Like,
just like a subclass, like
yeah,
a
full
bard or an
thing.
artificer, but like a complete chef class, which I do really like that concept.
Yeah. So the idea is we have another caster, and it's a skill monkey caster. You know, they're meant to support, but like when you think of a caster, you're thinking, oh, they're slinging spells to change the battlefield crazily or to blow up something.
Yeah.
Soothsayers are the spellcaster that says, yeah, hit me. Like the artificer. They're there to say, yeah, I can get hit. I'm fine with it. I'll keep my party alive. And
Any kind of tanky caster is going to be nice.
yeah.
But hey, look, it's Chris. But so let's
Hi.
start because I've built a full class. If you look through my social, you'll see I have a book of 100 subclasses. Yeah, I have another book of 100 spells, a book of 100 ancestries. So I do have some clout to burn in terms of like knowing what I'm doing. Um, and we're gonna walk through this and see what we can do to balance this, get it kind of on the right track. Because building a class is the hardest thing you can do to homebrew. Like it's way harder than making a module or doing a subclass or doing a because you're building everything from scratch. There's like
Hmm.
some stuff that is some guidelines you need to follow, and we'll cover those. And then the rest, you just kind of hope it works, and you play test it a billion times until it works. Um, but the soothsayer and I like the flavor text you have, but let's get right into the actual meat. So the mechanics is going to be the most important. All the flavor we can add flavor.
All right. So getting down to brass tacks. Something that I was thinking about this class that makes its whole identity. And I know, like, when you think of a class, it's not the subclasses or whatever, it's their signature ability. For example,
Right.
druids. Druid wild shape. That's their thing.
Yeah.
Uh, clerics and their their divine powers and stuff. Bards with their inspirations. So the big thing that I wanted to make clear with the soothsayers, their big thing is soul points. It's
Mhm.
another tier of points, and much like sorcery points or um, key points, it's going to be the thing that fuels all of their powers. Um, Now, one thing I do want to put for you viewers is a quick pitfall. Thankfully, beforehand, Ali did warn me about this. This is a quick what not to do with your class when you are making a caster.
Mhm.
Soothsayers are a special type of caster that focuses on a lot of preparation. As a cook, there's a lot of prep that goes into your meals. If you're not well prepared, you're not going to have a good meal, and I want that to reflect in this class's abilities. So, the first heavy handed thing I did was take away the entire class's ability to cast spells.
Right. You in the draft that you sent me, it was like you can't cast spells in combat, and I was like, don't do that. Which it's like I just it's again it's one of those things where it's like I understand the thought, and this is something that a lot of people do when they're making homebrew, and something that I did myself, and I now no longer do, um, which is you don't want to have something that you're like, okay, well, this is a really positive bonus thing that you get, but then I have what I believe to be an equal negative that you get to balance it out. That doesn't create balance. That creates a really big positive for the class and a really big negative, which is not balanced at all, because those things are never going to be equal. It's like you have big situational benefits and big situational negatives. So I would say just give simple bonuses, and then the negatives should be inherent. That it's like, okay, well, like, let's start with the class features. So they start with a D8 hit die. So they're never going to be as tough as a barbarian or a fighter. That's a negative that they get, but it's not like, I saw someone who they're like, oh yeah, I did, what was it? They did a spellcaster where like they have a really big bonus thing to all their spells that they do, but they get a minus to their constitution, like their constitution is maxed at like a 16. And I was like, that's insane. That's fucking insane.
They'll never pass a concentration check.
Yeah. So you just kind of find some simple bonuses you can get, and then like I said, the negatives will be something that's already built in that you don't have to add on top. So I see when we're looking here, it's a D8 per Sue level for hit die. Again, very common for a spellcaster. There's a couple full casters that get D6s, sorcerers and wizards, but those are big glass cannons. This one is tanky, so a D8 is much better. And they have utility spells. They don't have a ton of damage.
Yeah. So, one thing that I quickly wanted to do, and chat, we're going to move over from the pretty looking page to the rough draft real quick. So one thing that I quickly did to change that was immediately got rid of that big change and went to let's adjust how their spells affect the players now. So I changed that with the infused meals. So I want their meals to guide players towards buffing and healing their allies. That's what they're there for. You play a wizard or a sorcerer to blow up stuff. So with the infusion, I have it so healing spells, when you use them, the moment that you eat a meal that's infused with a healing spell of any sort, whether it's a restoration, gain hit points, whatever, it immediately works. Just bam, you got that buff. So it's like carrying, and that's kind of the big thing about it. Like, oh yeah, why carry a potion? Like a soothsayer doesn't want potions. He'll just make something better than that,
Right.
I'll make a sandwich, and if you eat the sandwich, bam, you got cure wounds in there. But that's where the soul points come involved. So the biggest change I did is their soul points now no longer affects their spellcasting outside the combat, but it affects how many meals they can infuse. They can cook all day, but that doesn't mean every meal they cook is going to be magical. So
right.
Another thing that I did to also curb them towards more of a support role, non-enchantment spells. So things that have like an area effect, like if you had the burning hands or something like that. The player needs to make a constitution check with disadvantage, by the way. So it's trying to say, hey, you can eat this meal and have pocket burning hands on you as a fighter. That's very powerful, a fighter being able to cast burning hands on a charge. But they need to pass that constitution saving throw with disadvantage. If you eat a super spicy meal, the way that I was thinking of it is, this is a meal that can literally make you breathe fire. If your gut's not tough enough to handle it, it's going to hurt.
All right, well, we're going to get rid of the disadvantage.
Get rid of the disadvantage? Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to get rid of the disadvantage. Again, too harsh of a negative there. I don't mind the idea of they have to make a con save to store the spell.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is, on a failure, it's wasted, instead of them taking half the damage. Because, look at it this way, is if I give you a spell scroll,
yeah,
it's the same as, like, okay, if they use it, they take their action, they use it, it's cost you soul points for the infusion,
mm-hmm.
And this and that. But, like, if someone uses a spell scroll, now, rules is written, you have to make an Arcana check, and it has to be this, and if you fail, then the scroll doesn't work and all that shit. So this is more rules as written the way spell scroll should work, whereas the way I do it in my games, and you know this, anyone can use a spell scroll and it always works.
Okay.
But I would say if they fail, they gain no benefit from the infused meal. They don't store the spell, which is pretty nasty. If I do this and I go out and I'm like, okay, I've spent soul points on this, eat it, and then the fighter is like, oh, sorry, I fucked up the save, and now it's useless. I'm like, that's sucks for me.
Yeah.
But it's not something like, oh, I gave it to the wizard, he tried to do it, he immediately does burning hands on himself and kills himself, and I'm like, oh fuck, so I've lost soul points and I just injured an ally. Because that's a hat on a hat. That becomes, again, too much of a negative.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And we'll pin this one. We'll come back to around this one. Specifically, there's a subclass that's supposed to interact with this attribute differently, but that might help more because they also lose the spell slot too. So I can understand that you lost the spell slot and the soul point, and your ally got damaged. Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah. So at this point, that becomes way too harsh. And the subclasses, we'll get the base class features first, and then we'll figure out how subclasses change them. So I would say, like, the first and only subclass you should make should be the core, basic, like, most cliche version of this class. Like, if I'm doing cleric, I'm doing life domain. If I'm doing paladin, it's, the Oath of Redemption. If I'm doing barbarian, it's the berserker. Like, this is, when someone thinks of that class, this is a simple, and you do that subclass first, and then the other subclasses change how it works and change the flavor of it. But those we don't worry about till the class is, like, done.
Got it. Okay. Moving on, I changed how transmutation and enchantment spells worked. I do need to update this wording a little bit, but I'll just be clear what the intent is. I decided to change it because, like, I don't want to take away player freedom. Like, let's say a player is playing a soothsayer, but they're a shady cook, you know what I mean? They like the idea of, I could cook you something, but it may not be good. So I flavored this, that spells that can alter properties, transmutation, enchantment spells, paralyzing spells, slow, things like that. If the creature eats these spells, they have to decide, first of all, they can choose to fail. So if you're giving your allies something to buff them, they can choose to fail.
Yeah,
but
like a polymorph.
Yeah. But the idea is, once the creature eats this, they basically need to make a Constitution spell save against the Seuss's spell to see if they resist the effects or not. So the idea could be, if the party, let's say the party's trying to infiltrate a castle, and the bard talks up to Seuss's abilities of such an amazing cook. This is the evil king. The party wants to kill the king and get out, assassinate, clean break. So the Seuss says, hey, yo, I got an idea. I'm going to bake paralyze into this guy's food. He's going to eat his meal, he's going to be paralyzed, and it's going to look like he can't move, and the rogue can now accidentally fake his fall or something like that. So I wanted to word it in such a way that, like, it gave the player that freedom. If they wanted to make a meal that is going to alter how something feels, they could choose for it to be helpful, like for their party, like if I put bless or alter self on it, or like I said, harmful. I just made a giant plate of food for my bad guys, and it's a meal of slow. After they eat this, they just get super full, and it's like having the itis times 20, you know?
Right. Now, what I would say is that's something that you could do with this, something as simple as flavoring. Like, okay, you can prepare you can infuse a meal that it has a transmutation or enchantment spell, right? Any creature who eats it, then, they immediately have to make the save associated with the spell. Because it's essentially like leaving, like a glyph of warding or something around, that they don't realize. What I would say is if they eat it, then they have like a penalty to the saving throw, right? Because this isn't like you went and cast a spell on them. It's like they literally ate the food that is like poisoned with this spell effect, right?
Okay.
So it's like it affects you more, right? Like it's you have a harder time to resist it. But the other thing I might say is like, okay, if you infuse a spell with like a transmutation or enchantment effect and a creature eats it, like they have a penalty to it equal to your proficiency bonus or something, whatever you want to do. And then if um, if they are suspicious of the food, they can make an insight check against your spell save DC to determine whether or not the food has been magically altered. Because I might be that king and be like, well, I have a taste tester. I am suspicious of everything, and I'm going to look at this. How can I tell that it's been fucked with?
Yeah. Or if you try to do this to someone like Asmodeus or some shit, he'd be like, I can see that you clearly have magical food there. I'm not stupid. Like,
yeah, and you could say like creatures with true sight like automatically can identify magically altered food.
Something with like detect something that could cast purify food and water on like command probably could know, or some shit like that, like a Rashaska or some shit like that.
Right. I would say spells that detect the presence of poison or something might locate this, or like you could even say like, okay, well, it doesn't show up to detect magic, but it shows up to detect poison and disease. Or like you could do purify food and drink, but it works the same as like remove curse or dispel magic. So it has to be cast at the spell's level to get rid of it,
Okay.
So like there's something, well, and we'll figure out the exact wording, but what I would say is like, if you infuse food with a transmutation or enchantment spell, unwitting creatures have a penalty to their saving throw equal to your proficiency bonus, let's say. A suspicious creature can make an insight check against your spell save DC to determine that the food has been magically altered. Spells and effects that detect the presence of poison have. Actually, since it's not poison, I don't know that I would give that. But well, we can,
We'll
again,
put a
that's
pin
something
on
that's
this
like,
one. Yeah,
we'll put a pin on that. But
me,
you get the idea.
I can. Let me just.
So here, I'll type out what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You can use a meal with a spell from the eats the meal as a their saving throw equal to your proficiency bonus. A creature can make an insight check against your spell save DC. Determining that it has been magically altered on a success. Spells that detect the presence of magic, or actually, or how about this feature?
Yeah, because it'd be.
Actually, I'll just do basic detect magic.
Yeah.
Detect magic does not, or actually, here, I have a better way to word it. The infused food does not register to detect magic or some spells or features that detect the presence of magic unless cast at a level equal to or higher than the spell infused in the meal.
Yeah. Actually, that's great too, because even worded like that, if let's say I'm using a soothsayer as a villain, the yeah, that's work because the party could literally go to a hag's house. It's like, hey, yeah, eat the food by my assistant. It's
Right.
poison. Yeah,
So that's the thing is you need to think to not just how a player can use this, but how it would be used against the players too.
I
So
see.
that's something. So like this, like I said, I get what you're saying. This is just a cleaner way to basically
Hmm.
say what you're saying. The only difference is um, it doesn't change the save of the spell. It just makes it whatever the spell's save is. But they have a penalty to it. But if they're suspicious, they can figure out like, oh, hang on, something up with this.
Got it.
I don't want to delete your thing, but
No. That's totally. Yeah, just we can edit that in a second. Um, Let me just highlight this with a little pen, so I know we will go back to this one. Insert, add comment. Go back. You know. Anyway, next thing, I'm thinking about getting rid of this one and collapsing it into the one above, just for because it's the same effect basically. Spells that require a roll to hit. Well, obviously, let's take out the disadvantage because we just talked about that. I did want to give it a slightly higher con check because you're targeting something, so I made it a 15. And
it again, it should be based off of your spellcasting. Because if
okay,
I'm a really powerful one, like it should be a really high check. But if I'm just like a beginner, then but let's see, spells that require an attack roll. Hmm. What I would say then is
and I did kind of want to make this one like the least appealing because this is using their magic. Like, it's not that they can't do this, but I kind of want to have it built into the class. Like, it's clear this is not how soothsaying was intentionally meant to be used. You know what I mean? Like, you're not trying to make food that's going to make you let you hurt people.
well, what I would say is um, spells that require an attack roll automatically hit if the target eats the infused meal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a um, a target can use their reaction to make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failure, they spit the meal out and it misses. Um, so that burns a reaction for the enemy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is a nice little bonus when you do have a spell that hits. And if they are dumb enough to eat it, then it's like okay, you're automatically hit because you just ate a firebolt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I would say then, I'll do how I was wording. Spells that are in attack roll automatically hit their target, um, uh, or actually automatically hit um, any creature who eats the infused meal. As a reaction, an affected creature can make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC on that shouldn't be capitalized. DC on On a success, they spit out the meal,
Eats a spicy meatball. Oh,
taking only half damage
yeah, that's not a
from the
bad
spell.
idea. Drink mixologist variation? That is not a bad idea. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Spicy meatball.
Failure, they are affected by the spell as.
Oh my god. I almost want to make a spell for that for this class. A spicy meatball. That would be great. That's a good
You could
idea.
definitely have some like Suzerain specific spells, um, or have like a feature that for like even for like a subclass or something where it's like, oh, if they you have a feature called like that's a spicy meatball that
Hmm.
like if they fail a save against like eating one of your meals, it does an extra like 2d10 fire damage or something,
Oh, nice.
you know, and like the creature is set on fire and they have to use an action to put themselves out.
Hmm. Yeah, actually, I like that better because like the way that this is worded. Previously, I was like, well, if you eat something that has a hit DC, yeah, you can just spit it up and attack somebody with it. That's what I was looking at. But it being worded like that, that's even better then because like the average soothsayer can't put like uh, chromatic orb if they knew the spell for some reason into a meal. Ally eats that meal. I cast chromatic orb. Nope, that's not how it works. Now you eat the meal and chromatic orb hit you automatically. Now you have to. Yeah, I like that better. That's a lot better.
Yeah, that's the thing is you take one of these meals and you like toss it out in the battlefield, and then like the Umber Hulk who's coming at you is like, and like picks it up and eats it, and then it's like chromatic orb goes off in their stomach.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a lot
Um,
better because with the first subclass, I know I do want a word that will
Whoops.
make ability they have even stronger. That I
Why
can.
is it doing that?
Yeah, I don't know.
There we go.
That's weird. All right. This one's the simplest effect for me too. Spells that would only work after death. They're triggered as soon as you die, but it has a 24-hour window. So like a high level soothsayer, if he gave you resurrection, oh, it obviously it can't work until you're dead. But oh, you died? Well, you're back up now. You're good. You know.
So it's like they basically get like a death ward,
Hmm.
even with like revivify.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's on.
Um,
Um, and granted, they can be creative with it too. Like if they use speak with dead. Oh, you died? Well, before you die, give me a message real quick. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to word it like that because there could be really fun ways you could use certain spells that you normally wouldn't think of outside of just revivify. Like um, if they had a necromancy spell, oh, you died? Well, you came back to life. You're a zombie now. It's cool. You ate that.
ooh.
You ate
Like
that
you could
zombie
feed
meat I
someone
made you.
like animate dead.
Yeah. So just fun effects like that. I was worry about this one because, like you said, with Death Ward, at certain levels it could be too powerful because it's like, yeah, my barbarian doesn't care if he dies. He's just gonna.
Well, that's the thing is if you do that, then what you're doing is when the barbarian or the fighter dies, if they've already eaten the meal before the combat, then they instantly get back up.
Mm-hmm.
So it is essentially, and that the only thing it wouldn't necessarily help with is something that destroys the body.
Mm-hmm.
So like disintegrate or something like that.
Yeah.
But essentially, like any instant death, they're automatically safe from because it's like, oh well, as soon as I die, then I immediately have one hit point because I ate a revivify meal earlier.
Yeah.
And that's not even doesn't take a reaction from you that because it's already prepared. So that means that like essentially the party can't die because at a certain point you can have enough things. You feed everybody a revivify every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the party can't die. So I would be very cautious about that one. I could see something like if a spell has if a spell restores a creature to life, such as Revivify or Raise Dead, like it restores them to life but not undeath, then you can infuse a meal as an action to instantly bring them back to life, but it costs you an extra 2 soul points to do it.
Yeah.
So like you're like, oh god, and you like whip up a meal literally over their dead body and bring them back to life. So they still get Revivify and Raise Dead and shit, but it costs you resources in the moment. You can't prepare it beforehand. But it still keeps the action economy that it should be.
Yeah. Oh, I have a better way to word it. How about this? It's still things like Revivify or something like that. You still have to eat it before the combat, but like the Seuss themselves have to spend that extra soul point once you're dead to activate the magic now. Like, oh, you died now? Now I have to spend an extra soul point to cast a Revivify that you ate earlier.
Would that mean then, if I feed it to you today, and then 2 days from now you die, I can just spend the points then to activate it?
No, because it should still have the 24-hour limit, so it has to be something like, yeah, it still has the day limit. So like if you took a long rest, that's gone. But the idea of it now is, let's say
if I've spent all my points, let's say just in case, because circumstances have fucked me up that I've spent all my points, and I've spent the level 3 spell slot and presumably the material components to cast Revivify, and then I don't have enough spell points to bring them back, so I've wasted a 3rd level spell slot and 300 gold.
I would be fine with that simply because like you spent the gold, the soul point, and the spell slot to give your ally this powerful ward. So whenever he goes down, you can't just bring them back just like that. So like, because it's a matter of preparation, I feel less bad if the player, let's say, my barbarian ate that, spent the soul point, and the adventure just begun. I have full soul points besides the one I gave him. We're at the end of the dungeon, and I foolishly spent all my soul points before the big boss. My barbarian dies, I need to use that Revivify, but I did not save the soul point to bring him back now that he's dead. I feel like that's more on the player, because before they even went in the dungeon, they knew that the barbarian has Revivify waiting to be reactivated later. And you didn't have the foresight to save that point. Because that's a part of your class, is being a little prepared beforehand. Because it is a powerful ability. That's why I was thinking about it like that. Like, oh, okay, yeah. Or, worst case scenario, let's say you were prepared, but you fucked up and you went down before the barbarian. And now he goes down. You know, like, well, we gotta get you back up so you can bring the barbarian back. It's still the same problem with KOing the cleric.
What I might say...
You and these breads... Chris is on the roll with these food puns today. Well, if it's something you have to prepare ahead of time, but you can choose who you feed it to when the time is needed. Oh, that's a different way to look at it, too.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is this. It's like you can infuse a necromancy spell. Okay, because the other ones we talked about the enchantment or transmutation. So it's like, but a necromancy spell requires an extra soul point to infuse. And probably just one, right? And then if a spell has if a spell restores a creature to life, but not on death, you must. I'm wondering if you should also have to use an action to like activate it once they're dead.
I'm fine with that, because like they're getting back into. there needs to be some level of turn economy. I agree with you on that one. So
Right.
using an action to activate it once they're dead is, yeah, at the bare minimum at least.
Let's come back to that one.
Okay, we'll come back to this one.
And then I like what you have here. If it has a concentration spell attached, there's a better way to say that, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like
The user of the spell maintains the concentration not to sue. Enchantment spells or full person last their full duration. So just enchantment lasts without concentration.
yeah. So like if it's a spell like Thundercloud, you have to concentrate on that. But like just enchantment or a hold person or something that happened to you, that's once again going into the idea of like I made you poison food and you ate it. That's on
Well,
you.
what I would say is this. Um, um, if an infused meal has a concentration, like I said, well, forget where because hold person is brutal. They're
Yeah.
paralyzed, so they're paralyzed for a minute. So what that means is, for 10 rounds, people get free crits on them because you attack with advantage, and if it hits, it's a crit, right? That is devastating because 10 rounds of crits will kill anything. Okay, that'll kill an ancient red dragon every time. So, what I would say is, um, if an affected creature, or how about this? If an enchantment spell, if a creature is affected by an enchantment spell that requires concentration, the
Oh, what if it's
the
like the Mind Flayers? They can make a save to just break out of it then.
well, what I was going to say is they have disadvantage on their saving throw to break the effect, or they have a penalty to the saving throw to break the effect at the end of each of their turn. So something like hold person, where they get to repeat the save.
Yeah.
It's like then they still get to make the save, but it's maybe not disadvantage because that's pretty nasty. But like, they have a penalty to it or something.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is, um, friendly creatures who eat infused meal. Okay, I know how it'll work. So, if a spell requires concentration, the creature who eats the infused meal concentrates on the spell, not or concentrates on the spell. And actually, I want to specify it's a friendly creature, because if I eat a whole person and then I concentrate on it, then I'll just drop it. You know what I mean? So spell requires concentration. You can actually how do we want to word that? Because I know there's a nice professional mechanical way of saying it that can't be manipulated, but I have to think of the exact way. Spell requires concentration. Friendly creatures who creatures who who eat the infused meal concentrate on the spell as if they had cast it, though it still uses your spell casting ability. No, your spell save DC or attack modifier. Piper, fire. Not a great typist. If a if a hostile creature, I don't know if I should say hostile because someone who eats it unwillingly that you want to affect with it, but they're not actively hostile to you, is not affected. So,
How about if the spell requires
creatures
concentration?
other than those you designate.
As friendly.
You just add you
Okay.
other than those you designate.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Or actually, if a creature other than those you designate is affected by an infused meal
Ooh, good
or
news.
by a spell that requires concentration, they have a actually here I'll do this. And I'll limit it to enchantment again. Enchantment. Do we say enchantment or transmutation?
Yeah, because I mean,
They have a
those
penalty
would be the spells that fall under that category.
any made to end its effects equal to your proficiency bonus or something. Again, that's not a hard. We might change that penalty or something, but might be just a disadvantage or something. But that way, yeah, creature other than those who designate is affected by enchantment, transmutation spell, that requires concentration, they have a penalty to any saving throw made to end its effects equal to your proficiency bonus.
Yeah. Now,
but if it's a friendly creature eats it, then they concentrate on it.
Cool. Before we move on to the next thing they got, one important thing I did want to say that I changed about this and made sure I designated. When it comes to their spell casting, only spells, when they're multicasting, only spells available on the Soothsayer spell list can be infused. Just to nip that in the bud.
That's easy to fix.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was a smart thing to do.
What do we say here? Here we go. With a hang on. So it's 2 words, say it?
Yeah.
So you can infuse me with a Soothsayer spell from the Transmutation Enchantment Schools of Magic. Soothsayer spells that require an attack roll. This shouldn't be capital S. And then again, we'll come back to that. If a Soothsayer spell requires concentration, so there you go. So it's specifically your spells from this class.
That would be very bad if you infuse a spell that I didn't put on the spell list and something busted happens. Because certain spells, I was like, yeah. So moving on, fun thing I did not want to take out because I feel like it really fits them. It's Souffle's Pocket Pantry. Basically, it's their bag of holding for their food stuff. It's something they're going to get at level 1. And I'm basically saying, hey, it's an endless door that leads to an endless deep pantry. They can only stick their hands and heads inside, but they're the astral assistant to help them retrieve or store anything that's in it. This is going into the groceries. I wanted to keep that. So the simple way that I'm putting it is it also works as their store. So since they use groceries instead of components for like high-level spells, if the spell would normally cost something that costs 500 GP, you pay the pantry that money, and it gives you that unique grocery. If it's extremely rare, it costs 1,000 GP, you pay the pantry that, and it gives you that grocery. So that way, like, I just to make it really easy for the players, like, well, I need a component for a high level spell. It's already built into your kit that you can just buy it. You still have to pay the gold, but
So I would say that is pretty powerful, because what that means is any material component that has a gold cost, they can just pay the gold cost instead of having to go and find that component.
mm-hmm.
So that's something that I would say you might want to limit to a certain number of times a day that they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even once a day is pretty powerful. For instance, my merchant domain cleric has a feature that does that, but it's once a day.
Okay.
And that's at a much higher level that they get it. So, because the thing is, let's say Hero's Feast, super great spell, and it's flavorful for this. That's 1,000 gold bowl encrusted with gems, all this shit. Well, if you're in the middle of a dungeon, and let's say you just leveled up and you get that spell, the soothsayer can just be like, okay, cool, I'll pay 1,000 gold, now I got it. Whereas the party would be like, well, now I have to go back to town and go buy a bowl, and if I'm in some podunk town in the middle of fucking nowhere, I'm not going to get that bowl. I have to be at like a major city, because this is a big thing that the DM wants me to have to go through before I get to cast this powerful spell. But I think once a day would be fair, because then it's like, no, I can magically produce it myself from this pantry. So I'm not against the feature, but I would say it should definitely have a cap to uses.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And one thing I did want to do is I wanted to preference and tie this this feature in with Can I Eat This? To figure out how to balance it better too. Because Can I Eat This? His whole purpose is, hey, you're obviously a cook. Can you identify these ingredients for yourself? So if you killed a monster, you just beat something, and this would be at DM's discretion. Like, if you killed a fairy dragon, that's a tiny creature, but hey, it's a fairy dragon, you might be able to find a unique ingredient or whatever. So I put a list on here of what ingredients would even be possible to find on the creature based on its size. But even then, they would still have to make a survival check to see if they can even eat the thing. And if they fail, then I made a little fun D100 check of what happens when they use the ingredient.
This is super fun. This should be a subclass.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Because also you need to define the check. If you do it at the DM's discretion, that means, oh, cool, I got to do work now. Anytime you kill something, I got to figure out a fucking DC for what it should be. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So, and I will say, like, I personally wouldn't mind, but it's like, I know DM's gonna be like, nope, not doing that.
Yeah.
And the D100, almost like a wild magic situation that I see what you have here, that's super fun, but it's gonna get in the way. So what we want to do is, I like that feature. Let's put a pin in it and gate it behind a subclass.
Okay, yeah.
What I would say is, if you wanted to super simplify it in a way that would work for any soothsayer, and then make it more complex for a subclass, is say, like, oh, can I eat this? Or like, butcher's training or something like that. You can just say, like, okay, as a soothsayer, whenever you or you can inspect one corpse to determine whether or not the creature is edible. Make a check using your spellcasting ability modifier, and then on a well, even then, I wouldn't gate it behind a check. I would just be like, you could make it literally just a little flavor ribbon of, oh, you automatically know, if a creature is edible or not. and how to prepare it in a way that it doesn't like poison anything like that. So like that way, what it means is you can always break down a, let's call it a medium or larger creature into edible rations for the party.
Okay.
So that no matter what, if you guys are doing a survival based campaign, a soothsayer would be, oh my god, it'd be so fucking useful because it's like you get a number of rations equal to one plus the number of size categories bigger than you the creature is, you know, or like it can feed you a number of days equal to like one plus, you know. So what that means is it's just a flavor thing, but it does have mechanical benefits in a survival based campaign or in anything that tracks food. But keep the chart that you have so that you can do it almost like a wild magic table for a certain subclass where you're like, oh, I'm going to eat some wild shit, which could poison me, but I get benefits from it. So you could be like, oh, I automatically get special rations, like these unique groceries, ingredients, and stuff, that replace the material cost of certain spells. That's really fun, but don't give it to every soothsayer.
Got it. I'll put a note in that so I can go back to that one.
So, yeah, I would definitely say something like, you know, you automatically know how to break down a creature into usable rations, assuming it has a body, right? Or you know whether or not it is edible. You can get a number of rations, and we can pick it. It could be some arbitrary, like a D8 or D6, or like, you know, you even have. Let me look at your thing here. Like you could be like, oh, you get 2 rations at level 3, and then like, you know, 3 rations at level 5. Like you could gate it up by level, or you could do something like 1 plus an additional ration for each size larger than you, the creature, just, you know, however you want to word it. It just make it kind of fun and flavorful. And then what that means is, like I said, a survival campaign, the party always has food, if they're killing stuff. And then, as I said, as a subclass, you could be like, oh, now I can break down more poisonous shit and risk it to try and get special ingredients.
Got it. Yeah. Put a little note in there so that can be revised, because that is a great idea for revisal. Because the thing that I liked about Can I Eat This is I wanted to be like one of those fun flavor abilities that help with our role play and stuff like that. And I think that's a better use of it.
Right. Like I said, the one of the big things you want to do is skill checks for abilities is hard because obviously as you level up, it'll be much easier. But there's also a way to be like have it scale up, but it then becomes complicated. And like, so you want to try and not require skill checks for abilities, and then don't leave it to the DM discretion. You want to pretty much like 99.99% of the time, like just give it a hard number, because if the DM has to figure it out, depending if it's an asshole DM, then they could make it impossible for you. Be like, oh no, I decided that this thing is it's a DC 25, and it's like, well, that's not fair, you know. It's like, I'm a talented soothsayer. I should be able to look at a monster and see if I can break it down.
Mm-hmm.
So this would definitely be something that's like, you could even expand on Can I Eat This down the road and say like, oh, as an action, you can look at a creature that's still alive and determine if it has damage resistances or condition immunities or something.
Okay.
Because you're like, hey, you know what? I'm looking at this giant thing here, and I bet you it's poisonous. So, you know, probably shouldn't eat that. But that means that it's resistant to poison damage or something.
I got you.
So that's like a higher level. That's something you could do down the road. So it still adds to the flavor, but also that's a serious mechanical benefit.
I went back up here though, taking your advice about adding a level limit. What do you think level 6? Once they at level 6 for this last ability, then, or would you think that's too low for the rare components?
Pocket pantry.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say,
the biggest reason why I want them to have it early is just for flavor reasons. If they're like, oh, well, I need a bag of colding or something, it's like you have a pocket pantry. Your food's not going to spoil. But
I'm not opposed to them even getting it early for the ability to replace material components. What I would say is, how about let's do this. You can
oh, that's amazing.
I'm working on an illustration for my bed. Nice. Yeah, if a spell requires 0 components with a gold cost, you can simply offer the gold to your you said it's an astral assistant.
Mm-hmm.
How is it worded? Astral assistant.
Yep.
Astral assistant within your pocket pantry. Am I stupid? Pocket pantry. Why am I doubting myself? Okay, you can say, and we'll say no action required. Can replace components in this with a value equal to 10 times your proficiency bonus.
Oh, so it's gated by your level. That's smart.
What you do, so you cannot do so again until you complete a long rest. This is what I do, son. At 10th level, you can replace material components equal to, actually, let's say 100 times your, and then we'll say 500 times your proficiency bonus.
Yeah, I didn't even think about, like, because doing that automatically gates it to your level. Yeah, that's smart.
So, yeah, proficiency bonus is the best way to scale. Let me think for a second of what that would mean mechanically. So at 10th level, so let's say, you always want to go with the highest first. So highest is going to be +6. So 600, so let's do 100 times 6. So that would cap it at 3,000 gold worth of material components.
I think.
Let's go higher than that. Let's do.
There's components you need that cost more than 3,000 gold. Yes, there are.
Yeah, up to 25,000.
Yep.
So let's do.
That's another thing too.
These go up to 9th level spells, right?
They have, I believe they can go up to 9th. They don't get many spell slots for 9th, but I'm pretty sure.
No. Every spell.
Yeah, they got 9. They're using the
6,
bar.
7, 8, 9.
Yep, they got 9.
Yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9. You only get 1 spell slot. Well, yeah. So let's do
Yeah. Because because they're similar to the bard. I let them get spell slots similar to a bard does. They're using the bard spell slot spell list.
So what I'm thinking is, yeah, first level that'll be up to 200 gold. Fifth level that's 300 gold. Ninth level that's, I think it's 159 13. 13 17. Can you check the proficiency bonus increase? I think it's 159 13 17.
Yeah, it is. Yep. 2 2 2 2 5. 2 2 2 3 3 3 4 4 4 5 5 5 6 6 6.
So 1 5. Ninth level it goes up again, right?
Yeah. First big 5. Yeah, 5 9 13 16. Yep. 5 9 13
16?
16. Yep.
Oh,
6. No, 17. Pardon me. 17 where you
okay.
get
I was
that.
gonna say,
Yeah.
making me doubt myself, son.
No.
Alright.
Small text.
So,
That small text got me.
So 159 13 17. So what that means is, if you get it at 10th level, then that means at first through ninth level, you can replace 200 gold, 300 gold, 400. No, yeah, 400 gold, and then after that, it would be at 10th level, it'd be 4,000 gold, and then 13th level, 5,000 gold, 17th level, 6,000 gold. Let me think if there's a better way to do that. Because we don't want to have it go up to 25,000. We want to have it go. I'm going to check one last thing. Okay, let's do 1,000 for now. I'm gonna make a note. How do I do a comment? Uh, 1,000 and 2,500. So that way, if we did 2,500, that would cap it at 15,000 gold, which is bananas. You still have to have the money to pay for it, so I'm not too hurt by it, but I want the bonus to make sense.
And that
Okay.
you can go back to that too. So here's one of the later abilities. First of all, I'll say going back to this, I completely gutted a lot of their big abilities after you told me like a lot of stuff needed to go. So Avant-Garde I took out because I was not Avant-Garde, but I took out Blazing Soul, Enflamboyant. Took that just out. I felt like that was way too powerful and they didn't need it, especially looking at other classes. And I changed the other two. So Renewed Vigor is that just has to stay because it literally is the thing that gives them more soul points. So eventually, what it's going to do, taking a break renews your soul, blah 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 blah. At 5th level, they start to get all their soul points back on short rest, and they gain
Where is this?
It says renew vigor.
Okay.
So 5th level, they get all soul points back on the short rest, and they gain an extra 2 soul points when this class trait activates, and then another extra 2 at level 11. And the reason why I wanted to just do that is just give them a little bit more soul points to play around with, because at that point they may be getting some fun stuff from those subclasses, and they don't get that many, I believe. Let me reread how I put soul points. It's equal to their Constitution modifier. So, yeah, that's it. The number of soul points they get is equal to their con mod. So it only goes up thanks to renewed vigor.
Okay, it's got to be higher than that. So, soul points, which this should also be added to the class table. Because I see you have the spell slots and the number of spells known. You got to have soul points.
Okay.
But what I'd say is this: I had for I have my cultist class, but I have another class that I've done that uses a point system, and I went back and forth with those points a billion times. So I was like, okay, it should be this plus this or this, or, this and like it should be a number of points equal to your level.
Equal to your level? Okay.
Easiest way to track for any, because it's the same thing. Key points, sorcery points, anything with points, you want to have it be equal to your level. That way, whoever's doing the class doesn't have to think about it. They're like, level 8, I got 8 points.
Gotcha.
How you change the point economy to make it fair is then we start to balance around what you can and can't do with points.
Mm-hmm.
But have them, if we do, and this is something that I can't even tell you, you do it equal to the level, and then you have to play test it.
Okay.
And if it's like, God damn, they got way too many points, then it's like, okay, they get them back on a long rest, and stuff is more expensive. If it's like, shit, man, like they're running out of points instantly, okay, they get them back on a short rest, So that's something that needs to be play tested within the class to figure out how it's going to work. But it should be a number equal to your level, guaranteed.
So, because I know renewed vigor is going to be an important perk that they need, I just don't know how strong or how weak it's going to need to be. Because any point class needs a perk that directly affects whether it's buffing or adding more points to them.
Yeah, and that's something you can play around the same with, like sorcery points of like, you can use spell slots to get soul points or vice versa. But you have to play test it. That's something that you won't know until you play test this.
Okay. Spice lunchbox is for sure one I want to keep because it's an important move of theirs. It's pretty much your primary way of infusions, but Spice of Life, it's on the chopping block. I don't know if it's too powerful or if it doesn't make sense. So the idea behind this is at level 2, when they're doing a long rest, they can add a special spice to their food. Doing so will restore 1 hit point, and it basically works like a good berry. So at level 2, they get good berry, basically as an ability.
So we're going to get rid of that.
Yeah, I didn't know if that's like, it can only be done in a long rest, but I was thinking it feels too powerful.
This is the thing. If you do good berry, then the whole point of having the can I eat this is useless, because now they're sustained every day by you adding the special spice.
Mm-hmm.
So no one needs to eat. So a survival campaign, you instantly win, right? And then you don't ever need to break down food because you just like, okay, during a long rest, everyone is sustained. It's like, all right, so we're gonna get rid of that. Soul points can be used to beef up the players, allowing the spice food to cure Creature of all disease, way too powerful for level 6. Addition, they become immune to poison, being frightened, make a wisdom saves with advantage. That's like Hero's Feast. No, way too powerful. So this is basically Hero's Feast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, this is one of the earlier things I added. I was just like, either this needs to completely go, or I can super
go.
nerf it to make it fun. So I wanted to ask you about this one.
This whole thing's gonna go.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Because it was definitely on the chopping block, but I was like, before I just say can it go, let me make sure.
Much.
Yeah, too much.
Too much.
Now, Lunchbox is going to be a difficult one. This is their primary way of making infusions. So, blah, 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 you need something on the go, yada, yada, yada. You can spend a soul point to make a Lunchbox, which is a consumable, a constable consumable is what that should say. It's basically their way of making potions. Consumable item that takes an action to use. Eating it counts as a meal. And it cannot be taken while paralyzed, unconscious, grappled, or restrained. You gotta have your hands free.
Well, grappled does not mean that your hands aren't free. Paralyzed, you can't take any actions, so that's already implied. Unconscious, you can't take any actions, so that's already implied. Restrained, I think you're incapacitated. So I would say it's an action to use, so you don't have to say that, because the rest of it, the negatives from those conditions will stop them anyway.
Okay.
And if I'm grappled and I want to drink a potion, I'm going to drink a potion, so I should be able to eat a lunchbox. Whereas if I'm restrained, I'm going to use my action to break out of it or do this. But if I'm paralyzed, I can't take any actions anyway, so I can't use an action to use it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You could say it requires a hand free. But in the meantime,
okay.
Once you use it, recovers 1d4. Way too weak. We gotta bump that up.
Yeah.
How many times can they do it?
It just costs a soul point to do.
A soul point?
Yeah.
Then do a cure wounds. 1d8 plus it's your wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Your spellcasting ability modifier.
And now the reason why I didn't want to do that though, it's still a meal, so they can infuse it if they want. So the idea is, hey, if you're making a lunchbox and you want it to be healing, infuse it. Like, I was kind of thinking like, oh, the benefit of the lunchbox, it always gets you a little bit of healing. You know what I mean? So you could just do it if you want a super weak potion for a soul point. But its bigger idea is like, hey, you made a lunchbox, you infused it with a meal. Your party can now carry a meal on them that they can use in combat, like right away if they wanted to.
What I would say is this, is you still, I mean, we could do like, meet in the middle, do like D6, but I still think a D8.
Okay.
Maybe not plus wisdom, like they recover 1d8 hit points.
Okay.
And then I would say, you can infuse a lunchbox as a meal. Actually, how about this? A creature can eat it, can spend an action to eat it, and recover 1d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And then you can infuse a lunchbox as a meal. When you do so, the amount of healing it provides I think since you're spending a soul point to do it, it should just give you an extra D8. Either way, even if you infuse it further on, because I'm spending an extra soul point to make the fucking thing.
Okay.
So if I want to spend, how about this? I have, because I did this with my combat medic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my combat medic, I was really worried about how that would work for like giving health packs to people.
Yeah,
Because I was
yeah.
like, oh man, like this and that. Um, so how did I'm trying to see how I worded it exactly. I said, the um, you can only have so many at a certain time. Only you have the bit of it. Um,
Yeah, I did limit it to one lunchbox per party member.
okay, so then, well, is that per rest or is that just to
No, like
carry at any
yeah,
time?
yeah, they can only have one lunchbox. Like if it's not empowered, no, it doesn't spoil unless empowered with another spell. So like it if they have a lunchbox, it's good until they use it unless empowered by a spell. And the whole point of that is just like, oh, you empowered it by a spell, you can't keep a fireball for a week sitting in your pocket. That's why I said it expires after 4 hours. But other than that, I was like, well, you're basically just making them a potion, so who cares when it goes away? But they can only have one at a time.
Why is this doing this to me? Um, as an action, you can create a lunchbox by a number of soul points. Um, um, that might be too powerful. Let me think. Because what I was even thinking is you could do something like if you spend 1 point, it does a d8. If you spend 2 points, it does 2d8,
Mm-hmm.
up to a maximum of, let's call it 5d8,
Um,
or even 4d8.
I
Right.
don't want to customize the lunchbox too much because each subclass does have something special with their lunchbox.
Okay, so then we'll get rid of that. So
Yeah, yeah.
by um, spending a soul point, um, um, a creature can eat a lunchbox as an action. For the 1d8 hit points instantly. You can infuse a lunchbox. Hey, David.
Ah, I
Um, what's going on, David?
talk about
Appreciate
burning a
yourself
hole
in
in
that.
your pocket.
You can infuse a lunchbox as you would a meal. Um, um, so a lunchbox provides. Well, do we want to say it provides nourishment for a day? I don't think it needs to do that.
No, 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 no. It like
So what we'll say is, a lunchbox does not expire or does not spoil.
doing good, David. We are doing good.
Uh,
Homebrewing up some cook stuff.
cannot carry more than one lunchbox at a time. If you use a lunchbox as you would a meal, if you do so, the um, lunchbox ex- uh, expires as um,
Because I said 4 hours, but does that?
Well, what's the normal limit for? Is it 24 hours or is it until your long rest?
The normal limit's a long rest until a long rest. So that might just keep it uniform with the long rest.
Um, uh, Within 24 hours. Let's do 24 hours. We might say when you take your next long rest, but if I do it at like the end of the day, then it's like, come on.
Yeah.
So
It's for
David,
a little
this
bit
is
of both,
actually,
David.
this is a custom. There's a homebrew class that Never here is making that I'm helping out with just a little bit, but this is Never's class, the Soothsayer, which is a cooking-based class. So you get to like have a utility buff, caster who does magical meals. Lunchbox expires in 24 hours after infusing it. I'd not say with it. It expires 24 hours after infusing it. But it no longer counts against the number of lunch boxes a creature can hold. And then what level do you get this?
I think this is a baked-in thing. Pretty sure you
That's
get
at
this at level 1. Yeah.
The healing a lunch box provides increases.
No, lunchbox is
to
level 3. Excuse me. I said level 3. I changed it.
1d12. Actually, let's just do 2d8. At 13th level. Is it level 3?
Yeah, level 3 is when you get it. I think that's fair, because they get their subclass to level 1 with this class. Like, I like the idea of lunchboxes when they really come online. Like, because level 3 should feel like that with most classes.
A couple cooking based templates for me. Oh yeah. So then let's do this, and then. Oh, that is not what I wanted to do.
Huh. No, just yeeted from existence. That was crazy. It's back.
Okay. There we go.
Just gonna bam. Because that is a lot more clear than what we had before.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it sucks, but you need to be very specific about the mechanics of how it works because people will exploit it if you don't. They'll still try and exploit it, but by spending soul points, creature can eat a lunchbox as an action, regaining 1d8. Yeah. So 1d8 hit points instantly. Lunchbox does not spoil, but creature cannot carry more than one lunchbox at a time. You can infuse a lunchbox as you would a meal. If you do so, expiration requires after infusing it, but it no longer counts against the number of lunchboxes the creature can hold. That level increases 2d8, 15th, 2d8. That's fine.
All right.
I think that's fun. That's fair.
Yep. Very classic. This is a skill monkey class, so I gave him expertise.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no
yeah.
issue with that.
Like the bard, I was like, I do want them to have expertise. Like, you're skilled at a thing. Your magic comes from a skill. So.
What I would expand it to. Because you have a third level, choose 2 skill proficiencies. I think expertise should either be first level, or if you do it like a bard where it's expertise at 3rd level. Then you do at 10th level you choose another 2.
Okay.
So why don't we just add that since we're going with the bard level of it?
Okay. That makes sense. I didn't
Shit,
want
I
to
don't
give
know.
them too much of that because I didn't know. I wasn't confident in the balancing of that. If that makes sense. So,
No, I understand what you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
um, the last class ability is on the chopping block, just like the other one, leftovers. I am leaning towards. I think it's too powerful. So,
Let's see.
leftovers at 10th level, it did say they can get at 10th level, but during a long rest, they can use the leftover meal from a Seuss meal they made, and basically they can infuse something without using a spell slot. It's the long and short of it. At 10th
I
level,
see what you're saying.
yeah. It has to be during a long rest, and it's only for one meal, but they get a free infusion without wasting a spell slot during a long rest.
No, we'll get
Yeah.
rid of that.
I was like, wait a second, that's basically saying during a long rest you can cast a spell for free for this class.
No, what I would say if you want to do something similar to that is, um, any I'd say if you have like multiple infused meals, at 10th level you can pick one and extend uh, its expiration date or something like that. So you can basically be like, okay, this one that I infused yesterday, I do one and it lasts for another 24 hours or something. But it has to be something that you already infused. It has to be like a spell of like 5th level or lower. Even then, I'd probably limit it to like 3rd level or lower. So I would say, yeah, at here, let me type what I'm thinking of
All right.
how, because I know how I want to word it, and I'm better at typing than I am speaking. So at 10th level, you can make, or what was it? Oh, I know. Know how to prepare hearty dishes from the leavings of previous meals. If you have an infused or what was it? You can choose one infused meal with a spell of, for right now, let's say 5th. I'm still tempted to say 3rd, but let's say one infused meal at 5th level or lower, and extends the time it lasts before boiling by 24 hours.
I definitely want to take out the short rest at 14th level because that's too powerful.
Yeah, that's way too far.
I think I'm just going to leave it can be done twice at 17th level. Like you can choose 2 effects at 17th level.
Yeah, I would say at 17th level you can
Yeah, because especially
you
now that I'm saying it. Oh, having an iconic meal. That might be a better idea.
to An iconic meal. Oh, similar to like a wizard has their iconic spells,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like first and second level spells that they get for free.
That's not be.
Because like high level wizards get a thing where they basically can turn like a first or second level spell into like a cantrip to infuse meals.
I will highlight that because I like that might be a better idea for leftovers. Iconic meal versus leftovers. I like that idea.
That should definitely be a high level feature.
Yeah,
Um, what I would say, um,
because I wanted leftovers to be the high level feature for this class because of just how powerful it sounded, but I wasn't sure if like it was just stupid and should just be redone into something different. But the way that it's worded here, I like this wording better, and it pretty much makes the fit of like, yeah, we ate a lot of food, we have some left over, but
right. Well, if you think of okay, so spell mastery, which is what it makes me think of, if that's um, if that's what David said, or is this give additional properties to that meal or something? But there's spell mastery and signature spells that wizards get, and this is
mm-hmm.
kind of what I would base it off of, just going off that idea. So spell mastery, you choose a first level wizard spell and a second level wizard spell. You can cast those at their lowest level without expending a spell slot when you have them prepared. If you want to cast either um, at a higher level, you have to expend a spell slot as normal. By spending 8 hours in study, you can change which ones. So I don't know that I'd go, but I'd basically say like choose a first level, and a second level that you can infuse once without expending anything. Like you get it for free. It's like your iconic meal, or your signature dish is what I would call it, because that's like what they at a restaurant is. Like if you go to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant and you get the fucking risotto or beef Wellington, that's his signature dish. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing he's known for. Um, and then at 20th level for wizards, they have you gain mastery over 2 powerful spells. Choose 2 third level as your signature spells. You always have to prepare. They don't count against number of spells. Blah blah blah. You can cast them each once without expending a spell slot. Um, what I would say is I think it's better to do like the spell mastery where it's like, or the signature spells where it's like, yeah, you can cast it. Like you can infuse it for nothing
Mm-hmm.
once a day. Um, but you could do up to third level spells then, But that would be a capstone. That would be like a level 20 feature.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely. Let me make a small note of that at the bottom. I might think about that because that's not a bad idea. But I would.
So I think if you kept leftovers the way it is, where it extends the time, you could still do a capstone at 20th level of like signature dish or something. That signature dish.
Dignature. Yeah, that makes sense.
So signature dish. So yeah, it's like you get to have a special meal. You can infuse for free once a day.
Jesus, my.
And that's another thing that I always recommend for homebrewing. Take stuff that works from other classes and steal it. I mean, it works. Nothing wrong with you making it work for what you're doing. You know what I mean? Can there additional benefits like temporary HP? Yeah, that's something you could do. Like when you infuse a meal in this way, like a third level, so you get it for free, and someone who eats it gets, bonus hit points, or if it's an enemy, they get extra damage or something.
All right. Just to go run down real quick. Let me go into before we go back over what we have. the quick subclass ideas. I don't want to go too deep into them because obviously you said refine the main class first,
Yep.
and I want to let you know which one I'm thinking as like the main subclass, and then give you a quick idea of a spell list I'm thinking. So, the main subclass, and this is would be the subclass that Souffle would be, who would be obviously the head teacher of this entire class, but it's avant-garde. So
Okay.
they're the cook that finds the rarest food and spices. This is like your this is the cook that wants to travel the multiverse and find the best foods. Period.
Okay.
So this is like your idea is they're more the spellcastery type soothsayer. So
Mhm.
they're going to get Firebolt, Frostbite, Acid Splash, Chaos Bolt, Frost Fingers, and Tasha's Caustic Brew as first level spells. This is just to home down like, hey, they can attack more. I wasn't quite sure for 19th and 13th levels if I even want to add that, but the idea is I'm giving them more castery type spells. They're not going to have any defensive abilities, and their only like really big ability is something called Gourmet Golem. So first of all, one thing they get is Spice Master. Uh, I want to change this now since we changed how we said abilities work. But the idea is their offensive abilities. They've learned how to hold back that explosive flavor, so players no longer have disadvantage when eating your harmful dishes. The idea is that negative penalty they had, they don't have it when you eat their food. So obviously, this would need to be changed to reflect the changes I made up there.
That's fine. We can change that.
Yeah.
So the gourmet golem, soul point, you can turn any meal into a golem. Okay.
Yeah, and the whole idea here is, hey, they're the only one that can like legit have a summon. Like that's their thing. They summon the gourmet golem, and I definitely want to adjust the hit points or how it's used. I'm having it use soul points and spell slots because the
Okay,
idea
so
is they can put more food into the golem to make it beefier.
right. What you need to do is you do it like a low level summon spell, like summon beast. Okay, and then you follow the same guidelines that has. Where, so if I do like summon beast, I think is one of the lowest level ones from Tasha's. Its hit points is 20 or 30 plus 5 for each spell level above second. So I would say make it the same kind of thing and do, yeah, I mean 5 for each spell slot. And
Okay.
since we changed soul points to be more soul points, it should be the same for soul points or spell slots. I would probably stick it to just soul points instead of spell slots.
We're doing more bard / sorcerer, David. So it's based off the
More
bard.
focus.
Yeah.
So I would do. It has 30 hit points plus 5 for each soul point used. And then because that's a summon gets pretty out of hand pretty fast. So, and then you said it lasts for 24 hours. Oh yeah, I would make it. I would say it lasts until you complete a long rest.
Okay, cool with that.
Even then, you could have it last an hour or something. It'd probably be fine. But let's look at other summon things. So, if we go to the Battlesmith, which I think is one of the best examples for having a summon that's with you. That one, let's see. At the end of a long rest, you create a new one. You already have one. It does blah blah blah. So it's like you have it, and then yeah, it lasts until your long rest. So Yeah, and the Steel Defender for the Battlesmith is 2 plus your intelligence mod plus 5 times your artificer level.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, that'll still put that online with this. Because that is 2 plus a max of 5 plus, at this, so 15 plus, so 22 hit points at 3rd level for a Steel Defender. They get more. They get some pretty nice stuff. So, yeah, I think 30 plus 5 for each spell point you use is
That,
more than fair.
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about College of Creation.
College of Creation is a really good one to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a college that doesn't get used that often. I don't see that many bards of that now that I think about it.
I've only had like 1 or 2 college. No, I've had 2 College of Creation bards across like all my games, which is a shame because they're fucking awesome.
No, there's nothing bad with them. Yeah. That's actually the Golem I based their Golem off of. Yeah, these are the stats I used the College of Creation's Golem for this Golem.
And
I changed just a few things from it, like just for it to make sense. Like I gave it Damon resistant fire because you cooked it. You know what I mean?
That one is 10 plus 5 times your bard level. So then what you might do is
it can fly? Jesus!
It can fly, yeah.
Why don't people use this? It can fucking fly. Anyway, I'm not going to get sidetracked. That's a good summon.
Right. The difference is it only gets the 1 slam.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that is nice is on your turn, it's like you use your bonus action to command it to use its action, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I mean is down the road you can eventually, I think you can have multiple of them, right?
Yeah, it looks like they can get more.
Yeah, at 14th level you can create more than one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So those ones you start getting several attacks. But what I would say is, I think 30 plus 5 for every spell point used. And then you don't need to put a maximum hit points possible.
Yeah. And one thing too that's going to make this thing different, and I might make this made of better stuff. Oh yeah, they don't get this right off the bat. Cool, I thought so. I might change this level. This is the thing that is going to. They don't need multi-attack. I need to take multi-attack off. It doesn't get multi-attack.
Okay.
Because of made the better stuff, I meant to take multi-attack off. So made the better stuff is this golem special thing. I said at level 6, they can spend an extra soul point. Because it's food, they can now infuse a meal into their golem. So the golem will get a rechargeable spell from their list that it can cast. So that's why I'm like, no, it doesn't need an extra spell. It doesn't need an extra attack. Because they can put fucking fireball into their golem. You know what I mean?
Well, what I would say then for made better stuff is, on your turn you can use a bonus action to expend a spell point, and it can cast a spell that, like one of your spells, as its action. You know what I mean? So, like, let's say, and it's per level of the spell. So, like, let's say you go and your avant-garde here has chaos bolts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say on your turn you use your action, and you beat the shit out of somebody, or you do something, and then use a bonus action to give a spell point to the golem.
Mm-hmm.
On its turn, it uses its action to cast Chaos Bolt because you just gave it a spell point.
Okay, yeah. That's cool.
How that's worded, we'll figure out specifically, but I would say made of better stuff should definitely be like, you can spend a spell point as a bonus action so that it can then cast a spell of equal level to the number of points expended. I will say we are getting near that time that I
Yeah.
need to head out.
So
Um,
yeah, let's just start
but
wrapping this up then. But that's the idea of him. It's just the spellcastery. That's the main one. Hearthstone's the defensive one. Not going to get into that too much. Its spell list, like I said, this is just a quick glance at it. I'm thinking of stuff like a lot of absorb elements. Burning Hands is like the most destructive thing, but for cantrips, control fire, create bonfire, dancing lights, and code thoughts, yada yada yada. Um,
yeah.
we can get more into that stuff later. It is about that time, so before we stop, please shamelessly plug yourself. Let everyone watching know who you are.
Yeah, the last time I plugged myself on stream, I almost got banned by Twitch. Um, the the no, this is a really cool idea. I will say, um, the the I like Gourmet Golem. I'm trying to think. Anyway, I'll come back to that. We'll work on this some more. We'll do some more streams down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I want to first off thank you for having me because this has been super fun. Like I said, I really like this class. I'm excited to see where else you go with it. I think you have something pretty cool here. I'm excited to see how it ends up. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Alakazam. I'm a pro DM, purveyor of all things homebrew. I right now I run 15 games a week. I actually have a couple time slots open for more games. So if you want to play D&D 5e, Cyberpunk, Lancer, Blades in the Dark, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, I mean I have so many systems I run right now. I'm also looking into more org and a couple other systems, so check those out. But I have those games available. You can find me on Twitter at Alec_Zam. I'm also on Tumblr, Instagram. I have a Hive, but I don't do anything with it because Hive sucks. And it does. It sucks. And I write a ton of homebrew on my Ko-fi. You'll actually see that I have 3 books that just came out in the last 2 months, a book of 100 subclasses for 5e, a book of 100 spells, and a book of 100 ancestries / lineages, playable races, So I have a ton of fucking content. Right now, my number one thing that I want to talk about beyond my streams, because I stream every other week with C. Lever Art, who he will illustrate live on air while I'm homebrewing live on air every other Thursday. But my number one thing that I really need to mention is I'm doing a giveaway on my Twitter right now. If I get to 3,333 followers, which I'm really close, I'm at like 3,318 or something like that, I'm going to give away my next book of 100 stuff. It'll be 100 magic items. And I'm also going to give away the first 3 books to the winner, but the magic items will go to 3 additional people. So if you like my shit, but you don't want to pay for it, then just follow me, enter the little giveaway on my Twitter. It's my pinned tweet. It's pretty easy. Just like and retweet it and follow me, and there you go.
Yeah. Small spoiler: there's a badass whip in there that I may or may not be looking for in the campaign of his.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have made the whip. You shouldn't have made the whip so cool. That's your fault. I won't apologize for thinking that whip is cool.
Hey man, don't blame me. Blame like the Belmonts and Indiana Jones and Kratos and like every character uses like a whip-like weapon.
Well, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. This will not be the last time you hear of the lovely adventures of the soothsayers. Maybe
Yeah.
next time we do this, you might hear some lore of where they come from and why they do what they do. But until then, we are going to...